Welcome back, you night owls. Tonight we're going to step through the tapestry of time, not as observers but as participants. We're going to whisper into the hallowed halls of a medieval castle, smell the wood smoke on the winter air, and feel the heavy, embroidered silk of a gown that isn't yours. You're not a knight, not a peasant, but a princess, born into a world of stone, secrets, and a brutal kind of beauty. You're about to be born right now into a family that sees you less as a child and more as a walking, breathing political treaty. They will celebrate your arrival with feasting and fanfare, but you probably won't survive this. A princess was as likely to die in infancy as any peasant child, if not more so, given the bizarre medical treatments and lack of basic hygiene. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Let me know where you're listening from and what time it is for you. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The world greets you with a kind of fanfare usually reserved for a conquering army. There is no quiet, private moment between mother and child. Instead, the room is packed with people, your father, a king or a powerful duke, of course, but also his entire court. The ladies-in-waiting, the physicians, the priests. They're here for a reason. They need to see that you are whole and healthy, that your birth is legitimate, and that you are, in every physical way, a suitable vessel for the future of the family line. Your birth is an official political event, and your first breath is a public declaration of your family's future. The midwife, her hands rough and stained with herbs, holds you up to the assembled crowd like a trophy, a symbol of your father's virility and your mother's fruitful status. Your first few years are spent in a bubble of controlled observation. You're swaddled tightly, almost painfully so, a practice believed to prevent deformities but which in reality often caused them. You're fed, cleaned, and cared for, but not by your mother. She's a queen or duchess. Her role is not to nurse you. You are handed over to a wet nurse, a peasant woman selected for her health and the quality of her milk. This is one of those quirky little historical tidbits that feels so alien to us now. You are breastfed by a stranger, while your own mother is likely already planning her next political manoeuvre or preparing for her next pregnancy. The physical and emotional bond we associate with motherhood is, in this world, an indulgence reserved for the lower classes. As you grow, your life is a strange blend of opulence and stark reality. You will never know hunger, but you will also never know true freedom. Your days are dictated by a rigid schedule of religious instruction, lessons in etiquette, and the beginnings of your education. You're taught Latin, not for the joy of reading, but so you can understand the church's rites and diplomatic treaties. You learn to embroider intricate tapestries, each stitch a testament to your patience and skill, a visible sign of your worth as a future wife. Your tutors are not always gentle. Discipline is swift and often physical, a fact of life that even a princess cannot escape. One mainstream historical fact that might surprise you is that many medieval princesses were, in fact, highly educated and fluent in multiple languages. This wasn't a leisure activity, it was a matter of political necessity. A princess had to be able to converse with foreign dignitaries, write diplomatic letters, and understand the nuances of international relations. Your brain is a weapon, and your education is the sharpening stone. While your brothers are learning to joust and lead armies, you're learning to read people, to navigate a conversation, and to subtly steer a negotiation without anyone realizing you're in charge. Historians still argue whether this education gave them genuine power or simply made them better tools for their husbands' political ends. It's a debate that highlights the complexity of female power in a patriarchal age. Your toys are simple, a carved wooden doll perhaps, or a miniature chess to practice with. But even these are lessons in themselves. You're taught how to manage a household through play, how to order and organise a tiny make-believe court. There are no sprawling tea parties or whimsical stories. Your world is one of purpose, and every aspect of your life, from your clothing to your games, is designed to mould you into the perfect princess, the perfect wife, the perfect mother of the next king. Your diet is richer than a peasant's, but no less monotonous. The seasons dictate what you eat, and while you may have more meat and fine bread, it's still a repetitive cycle of stews and boiled vegetables. You're constantly on guard against disease, which lurks in the air and in the stagnant water. A simple cough can turn into a deadly fever, and a scraped knee can lead to a fatal infection. There are no doctors in the modern sense, only barber surgeons and apothecaries who practice a grim mix of herbalism and superstition. You will be bled with leeches, given strange concoctions made from ground-up insects, and have poultices made of boiled herbs and animal parts applied to your skin. The air in the castle is thick with the scent of wood smoke, old stone, and the faint, sweet smell of decay. Your senses are constantly on high alert, and you learn to read the subtle shifts in mood, the silent warnings in a courtier's eyes, long before you can read a book. You are a commodity, a living asset to be traded and bartered. Your father, even while doting on you, sees you as a means to an end. You are a valuable chip in the great game of thrones. You are beautiful, intelligent, and poised, and you will be used to secure an alliance, to end a blood feud, or to cement a dynasty. You are being groomed for a marriage that has nothing to do with love and everything to do with power. And every choice made for you, every lesson taught, and every restriction placed upon you is a preparation for that singular, defining moment, the day you are given away. You're no longer a swaddled infant, but a young girl, your days meticulously scheduled from sunrise to sunset. The sun's first light doesn't just filter through the narrow, leaded glass windows of your chambers, it signals the start of another relentless day of moulding you into a political asset. Your mornings begin with Mass, a ritual you attend in a private chapel, kneeling on cold stone floors as a priest drones on in Latin. This isn't just about piety, it's about public display. Your devotion must be visible, an unassailable part of your character, because a virtuous princess is a more valuable commodity. It's a bit like a modern celebrity meticulously curating their Instagram feed to show a flawless, aspirational life. Only your audience is an entire kingdom, and the stakes are infinitely higher. After Mass, your education truly begins. Your tutors, a mix of scholars, clerics, and older noblewomen, descend upon you like a flock of well-dressed vultures. You learn languages, not just Latin, but also the tongues of neighbouring kingdoms. Maybe it's French, or German, or a smattering of Spanish. This is a crucial skill. A princess who can communicate directly with her future in-laws, without the need for an interpreter, is a powerful diplomatic tool. You learn to speak not just with your mouth, but with your posture, your gestures, and the subtle flick of your eyes. You're taught to walk with a kind of stately grace, to hold your head high, and to never ever slouch. A princess who looks weak or uncertain projects weakness for her entire family. Your days are punctuated by lessons in courtly etiquette. You learn the intricate dance of hierarchy, who to curtsy to, how deeply, and in what order. You're a human GPS for the social labyrinth of the court. You must know the family tree of every major noble house, the history of every feud, and the nuances of every ongoing political quarrel. One wrong step, one misplaced smile, or one unintentional snub could spark an international incident. This is the fun part, right? It's basically a real-life version of that one video game where you have to get to know everyone and their weird backstories to get ahead. Except you can't just hit the reset button if you accidentally insult the Duke of whatever shire. One mainstream historical fact that often goes unmentioned is the importance of a princess's handwriting. You spend hours hunched over parchment, practicing calligraphy until your fingers ache and your back protests. Your letters, both personal and political, must be flawless. They are a physical representation of your education and your family's status. They are often sent across great distances and scrutinized by foreign courts. A sloppy E could be interpreted as a sign of intellectual laziness, and a shaky signature might imply a lack of resolve. This relentless training is a form of emotional detachment. You're not allowed to show too much emotion. Joy is a momentary flash. Sadness is a private affair. Crying in public is an absolute no-go. You're a fortress of composure. You're taught that your feelings are an indulgence and a weakness. A moment of genuine vulnerability could be exploited by your enemies. It's like being a perpetual diplomat, a living, breathing chess piece whose every move is calculated. Your emotions are the very last thing you're allowed to have. The quirky little tidbit here, it's about your hair. As you grow, your hair is rarely, if ever, allowed to hang loose. It's a sign of a woman's innocence and unmarried status, and it must be managed. It is often braided, coiled, and pinned beneath a wimple or a veil. This isn't just a matter of fashion. It's about controlling your very femininity, keeping it locked away and on display only when deemed appropriate. It's a physical manifestation of your lack of freedom. You're a bird, but you're a bird with gilded wings, and those wings are clipped. You may have the ability to fly, but you'll never be allowed to. In the middle of all this, you are allowed moments of play. You might have a lady-in-waiting who reads you stories from illuminated manuscripts, tales of knights and mythical beasts, of great battles and even greater loves. But even these stories are carefully curated. They are morality plays, not for entertainment, but for instruction. They teach you about honour, sacrifice, and the proper role of a royal lady. The message is always the same. Your destiny is not your own. Your life is a service, a sacrifice for the greater good of your family and your kingdom. Historians still argue whether these idealised tales of chivalry and courtly love created an impossible standard for princesses to live up to, or whether they served as a form of escapism in a world of rigid control. As you enter your teenage years, the pressure intensifies. Your body begins to change, and your physical appearance becomes an object of intense scrutiny. Your skin must be fair, your hands delicate, your waist slender. You're wrapped in tight corsets and heavy gowns. These aren't for comfort. They're for display. Every aspect of your person is a public declaration. You're a walking symbol of your family's wealth and power. You're now a commodity on the marriage market. Your father's emissaries travel to foreign courts, carrying portraits of you, though these are often flattering and bear only a passing resemblance to reality. They describe your virtues, your intelligence, your piety. They are selling you, piece by piece, as a diplomatic tool. You have no say in the matter. You're just a name on a list, a potential bride for a prince you've never met, who could be a cruel tyrant or a kind-hearted soul, or most likely a complete stranger with a bad haircut and a penchant for jousting. It's a real, what you see is not what you get situation. But you have to go along with it anyway. The fact that he's probably only ever seen a painting of you that's been photoshopped within an inch of its life is beside the point. All that matters is the land, the power, and the alliance he represents. You're no longer just a princess. You're a prize. Your life is a negotiation, and you are the main point on the agenda. You're now of marriageable age, which in the medieval world could be as young as 12, or even younger in some cases, although consummation would be delayed. You've been raised for this moment, but that doesn't make it any less disquieting. Your father, the king, has sent emissaries far and wide to shop you around. You are, in essence, a human trade good, your value fluctuating with the political winds. The ambassadors return with reports not just on potential suitors, but on the size of their kingdoms, the strength of their armies, and the stability of their family lines. It's all very businesslike, and you're the product being discussed in the boardroom. The first suitor on the list might be a prince from a neighbouring kingdom, a strategic match to end a long-standing border dispute. Or maybe it's a prince from a distant land, a powerful family with a fleet of ships and a claim on valuable trade routes. Your feelings are not just irrelevant. They are an obstacle. You're expected to feel nothing, to simply accept your fate with grace and piety. This is a far cry from the fairy tales you might have heard. There's no handsome prince riding up to your tower on a white horse to sweep you off your feet. There's only a detailed ledger of assets and liabilities. The process is long and tedious. Your father's court is a constant buzz of whispers and intrigue. Who will you be betrothed to? What is the latest rumour? Every noble family has a vested interest in your future. If you marry well, their families might be elevated, their lands expanded. If you marry poorly, or if the alliance fails, they could fall out of favour. You're a walking, breathing political barometer. The pressure is immense, a heavy cloak you wear every day. You're constantly watched, your every move, every word, every expression scrutinised for any sign of rebellion or, worse, affection for an inappropriate person. One mainstream historical fact that is often overlooked is that the negotiations for a royal marriage were incredibly detailed and could take years. It wasn't just about who you would marry, but about the dowry, the rights you would have in your new home, and the succession plan for any children you might have. Your future husband's family would send their own envoys to your court to observe you. They would check your health, your intelligence, your temperament, and your appearance. You are, quite literally on display, a horse at a market. You have to be a perfect specimen of royalty. Historians still argue whether this process, though brutal, sometimes protected the princess from marrying a truly awful match, as both sides had a vested interest in a successful, albeit loveless union. It's a very glass half full, or in this case, a very poison chalice half full kind of situation. You're at the centre of this maelstrom, but you feel completely powerless. You're a puppet in a high-stakes play, and the stage is the whole of Europe. Your life is no longer just your own. It belongs to your family, to your kingdom, and soon to your husband's family. It's all very unromantic, isn't it? The whole once upon a time thing is a bit misleading. There's no magic, no fairy godmother, just a lot of old men in dusty rooms haggling over your future. A quirky, fringe tidbit. In some instances, when a royal marriage was being arranged, a portrait might be commissioned, but the artist would be instructed to portray the princess in an idealised, almost impossible way. They would smooth out your skin, widen your eyes, and give you a more delicate nose. These paintings were more propaganda than art, designed to make you seem more desirable. It's the medieval version of a highly filtered dating profile picture. You're being sold on a carefully constructed lie, and you can only hope your future spouse isn't too disappointed when the real-life version shows up. It's a bit of a catfishing scenario, but one with far more serious consequences. Your education now shifts focus. You're now being trained to run a massive household, a skill that is not just domestic but political. You learn about managing accounts, overseeing a vast staff and organising grand banquets and ceremonies. You are a CEO in a gown, and your company is a royal court. This is your power. This is where you will be expected to exert influence, to build a network of allies, and to manage the day-to-day workings of your new home. You're not a figurehead, you are a manager. The days are long and the pressure is constant. You learn to smile even when you don't feel like it, to nod in agreement when you have no say, and to feign interest in the dullest of political conversations. You're a masterpiece of self-control. Your only solace is the company of your ladies-in-waiting, girls of noble birth who are now your friends but also your spies. You can never be sure who is truly loyal, and who is simply reporting back to your father, or even to a foreign court for favour. The trust you form with them is fragile, and the stakes are too high to ever be truly open. And then, one day, the decision is made. The documents are signed, the alliance is sealed, you are betrothed. The news is announced with a peal of trumpets and a grand feast. There is no joy for you, only a profound sense of inevitability. You're now officially a pawn. Your future is no longer a question, it is a done deal. The man you will marry is a stranger, a name on a parchment. You have no idea what he looks like, what he sounds like, or what kind of man he is. But you know that your life, as you have known it, is over. Your betrothal is not just a promise, it's a financial transaction of staggering proportions. As the ink dries on the marriage treaty, the real work begins, the assembly of your dowry. This is not a quaint little sum of money or a few pieces of furniture. This is a transfer of unimaginable wealth, a strategic repositioning of assets that can cripple one family and elevate another to unprecedented power. Your future husband's family is not just marrying you. They are acquiring land, castles, titles, and a vast quantity of gold, silver, and precious jewels. You are, for all intents and purposes, the gilded vessel containing a treasure chest. The process is meticulously documented. Scribes are brought in to create detailed inventories of everything that will accompany you to your new home. This is not a small task. It can take months, sometimes even years. The list is long and exhaustive. It starts with the land, perhaps a fertile duchy or a port city, a strategic piece of territory that your father is ceding in exchange for the alliance. This is the big-ticket item, the main reason for your existence. The land is what will secure the peace, what will ensure your future husband's loyalty to your family's cause. It's an easy, mainstream historical fact to grasp. Royal marriages were almost always about the land. Then there's the liquid wealth. Caskets filled with gold and silver coins are counted, weighed, and sealed. There are intricate tapestries, woven with threads of gold that can take a lifetime to produce. There are finely wrought pieces of furniture, ornate chests, and canopied beds. There is even a personal library, a collection of priceless illuminated manuscripts, some of which are so rare they are considered a form of currency themselves. Your dowry is a testament to your family's wealth, and every single item is a message. The quality of the embroidery, the purity of the gold, the rarity of the books, all of it is a public declaration of your family's status, and a promise of the value you bring to the new union. And then there's the quirky, somewhat surreal aspect of the dowry, the personal items. The treaty might specify a certain number of pearl-encrusted gowns, embroidered silk veils, and a full set of silver dinnerware for your personal use. But it also might include more mundane things, like your favourite childhood doll, a specific carved wooden box, or a collection of herbal remedies for minor ailments. These are the small personal touches that are so out of place in such a grand, impersonal transaction. It's a bit like buying a multi-billion-dollar corporation and insisting that the CEO's favourite coffee mug must be included in the deal. It highlights the stark contrast between the human element and the brutal politics of the transaction. Historians still argue whether these personal items were included out of genuine sentiment, or as a way to project an image of a more human, caring family to the foreign court. While the dowry is being assembled, you are undergoing a different kind of preparation. You're being tutored on the customs and traditions of your future home. You must learn the nuances of their court, the names of the most powerful nobles, and the gossip that animates their daily lives. You're taught their language, if you don't already know it, and you're even coached on their local cuisine and table manners. You're a spy in training, learning everything you can about the country you're about to be sent to. Your knowledge is a form of power, a shield against the inevitable culture shock and the potential for embarrassment. The weight of this dowry is a physical and psychological burden. You feel it pressing down on you every day. You are the most valuable thing your family has ever owned, and they have invested a fortune in you. You can't fail. You can't be a disappointment. The pressure is immense. Your worth is measured in gold and land, not in love or kindness. You're a walking investment, and everyone around you treats you as such. Your mother might pull you aside for a quiet moment, but even her words of encouragement are couched in political terms. Be a good wife, she might say, and you will bring honour to our family. The final inventory is signed and sealed, a document as important as the marriage treaty itself. It is a long hand-written list on a scroll, each item described in painstaking detail. A copy is sent ahead to your future husband's court, a promise of what is to come. It's a bit like receiving a very long, very expensive delivery manifest. The items themselves are in a secure room, under constant guard. They are not to be touched or moved until the day you depart for your new home. This is your future, locked away in a gilded chest. You're about to embark on a journey that will take you from everything you have ever known. The world you inhabit is about to change completely. The faces you see, the language you hear, the food you eat, even the very air you breathe will be different. And you will be doing it all alone, save for a small retinue of your own. Your dowry, this massive collection of wealth and power, is what makes this all possible. It is the engine that drives your fate, the reason you are leaving your home and family behind. It is your price, and you are about to be paid for. The air in the court is electric with anticipation. After years of long-distance negotiations, letters filled with flattery and veiled threats, and countless meetings between emissaries, the time has come for the final, official step before your wedding, your betrothal. This isn't a private affair, it's a public spectacle, a formal ceremony to seal the deal and make your impending marriage official in the eyes of the church and the world. It's a bit like a corporate merger, but instead of signing a bunch of legal documents, you have to stand there and look pretty while a bishop blesses you. For the first time in your life, you're about to meet the man you will marry. He has travelled with a grand entourage from his own kingdom. The procession arrives at the gates of your family's castle, a magnificent display of wealth and power. You watch from a high window, a nervous flutter in your stomach. The sight is a feast for the eyes. Mounted knights in gleaming armour, heralds in bright surcoats, and dozens of nobles all dressed in their finest silks and velvets. And at the centre of it all is him, the man whose name you've known for years, but whose face is a complete mystery. He's not a knight on a white horse, as in the stories you've heard, but a political figure, a man shaped by the same brutal forces that have shaped you. You see him dismount and bow to your father, his posture formal and practiced. You try to catch a glimpse of his face to read something in his expression, but he is a stranger, a blank slate. You can't tell if he's kind or cruel, intelligent or dull, handsome or plain. He is just your future. It's a surreal moment, a bit like meeting a character from a book you've only ever read about. You've heard his stories, you know his family's history, but you have no idea who he really is. The betrothal ceremony takes place in the Great Hall, a space filled with the murmuring of courtiers and the scent of freshly cut flowers. You stand next to your father as your future husband is presented. He offers you a gift, a symbol of his affection and his family's wealth. It might be a stunning piece of jewellery, a necklace of pearls and sapphires, or a ring with a single massive diamond. The gift is a public statement, a sign that he accepts the dowry and, more importantly, that he accepts you as a suitable bride. The exchange of gifts is a quintessential mainstream historical fact of royal betrothals, a tradition that stretched across centuries and continents. The ceremony is led by a high-ranking cleric, perhaps a bishop or an archbishop. The two of you stand before the altar holding hands. The priest pronounces you betrothed but not yet married. This is a crucial distinction. The betrothal is a legally binding promise, a commitment that can only be broken with the permission of the church. It's a moment of solemnity and finality. You are now officially his. This is the point of no return. You are a couple, not in love, but in the eyes of the law. You are now responsible for one another, and your fates are intertwined. A quirky fringe tidbit about medieval betrothals. The ceremony sometimes included a symbolic consummation. The couple would lie in a bed together, fully clothed, as a witness watched. This was meant to signify the beginning of their union, but without a full consummation. It was a bizarre, public ritual that highlighted the fact that your sexuality and your body were not your own, but a matter of state. Historians still argue whether this was a common practice or a rare, localized tradition. It's one of those things that, if you're a modern person, just makes you go, wait, what? It's a perfect example of the strange formal rituals that governed every aspect of a royal's life. After the ceremony, there is a feast, a grand celebration with music, dancing, and more food than you've ever seen. But even in the midst of this revelry, you are on duty. You are expected to sit beside your new betrothed, to make polite conversation, and to project an image of perfect grace and happiness. You are still being watched. The eyes of your future husband's court are on you, judging your every move. You must be charming but not flirtatious, pious but not a zealot, and approachable but with an air of royal dignity. It's a delicate balancing act, and the slightest misstep could be seen as a sign of trouble to come. You finally have a chance to talk to him, to get to know the man who will soon be your husband. The conversation is stilted and formal. You talk about his journey, the weather, and the various political alliances that have been forged. You try to find a shared interest, a common ground, but it's difficult. You're both products of your upbringing, trained to be diplomatic machines, and true connection is a foreign concept. This moment is not about finding a soulmate, it's about checking a box on a very long list. The evening ends with a grand farewell as his entourage departs. He promises to return for the wedding, and you're left alone with your thoughts. You have met him. You have shaken his hand, sat beside him, and spoken to him. He is a real person, not just a name. But is he a good person? Is he a kind person? You have no way of knowing. You're left with the uneasy feeling that your life is a story that has been written for you, and you are just turning the pages one by one towards an unknown ending. The day of your departure arrives, a paradox of splendour and sorrow. You stand on the castle battlements, a grand spectacle dressed in your finest clothes, but inside a knot of fear and sadness has taken root. You are about to leave everything you have ever known, your family, your friends, the very stones of the castle that have been your home. All are about to be left behind, possibly forever. Your journey to your new home is a grand procession, not a quiet departure. This is a public display of power, a slow-moving, armoured and bejewelled parade that will take weeks, even months. You're not just travelling. You're a political statement on the march. Your procession is immense. It includes not just you and your ladies-in-waiting, but hundreds of people. There are armed knights to guard the dowry and to protect you from brigands or assassins. There are cooks, blacksmiths and servants to set up camp each night. There are priests and scholars to attend to your spiritual and educational needs. The entire train of carts carrying your dowry is a sight to behold, a line of gold and silver stretching for a mile. This isn't just a trip, it's a moving city, a logistical nightmare of epic proportions. It's a bit like taking a grand family road trip but with an armed escort and 100 times more luggage, and you don't even get to pick the music. As you travel, you are a spectacle for the common people. They line the roads, eager to catch a glimpse of the princess. They whisper and point. Their faces a mixture of awe and curiosity. You smile and wave, a practiced gesture, but you feel like a character in a play, and the stage is the entire countryside. This is your first test as a public figure in your new role. You must be poised, gracious, and regal. You cannot show fatigue, fear, or a moment of true unscripted emotion. Every mile is a test, every town a new audience to perform for. It's exhausting, but you know that every person who sees you and is impressed by your procession is a person who will be more loyal to your family's alliance. One of the more fascinating mainstream historical facts about these royal processions is the diplomacy that took place along the way. Every time you cross a border into a new noble's land, you are met by their representative. There are feasts, banquets, and exchanges of gifts. Your procession is a travelling embassy, and you are its head. You have to be able to make conversation, to thank your hosts, and to cement the alliances that your father has already made. This is your first real diplomatic role, and you must prove that you're not just a pretty face, but a clever and valuable political asset. The journey is long and difficult. Roads in the medieval world are not paved and well maintained. They are often muddy, rutted tracks, and your carriage is a bumpy, uncomfortable ride. You must contend with the weather, with sickness among your retinue, and with the ever-present threat of attack. You are a valuable target, and even with the armed escort you are never truly safe. You learn to sleep lightly, to be ready at a moment's notice, and to find comfort in the small daily routines that your ladies-in-waiting create for you. A quirky tidbit about these journeys. Your entourage might include a travelling barber surgeon. This isn't a person who just trims beards and gives haircuts. This is your personal doctor, ready to bleed you with leeches or apply poultices made of strange herbs and animal parts. Your health is a matter of state, and every measure is taken to ensure you arrive at your destination in good condition. The fact that many of these medical practices were more likely to harm you than help you is a dark, ironic detail of your life. It's a real, I'm not saying it's a good idea, but it's an idea situation. Historians still argue whether the medical care of the time, though based on a faulty understanding of the body, was better than no care at all. As you near your destination, the excitement grows. Your future husband's family sends out an advance party to greet you. The man you met only once, months ago, is at the head of the party. He rides up to your carriage on a magnificent steed, his smile practiced and his eyes scanning your face for any sign of approval. This is the moment when the fairy tale gets real. You're about to become a part of his world, a member of his family, and you can only hope that the reality lives up to the promise. The final leg of the journey is a grand entry into his capital city. The streets are lined with people, and the sound of bells and trumpets fills the air. You are no longer an outsider. You are a future queen, and the city is welcoming you with open arms. The procession winds its way through the narrow streets, past the grand cathedral, and into the central square. It's a moment of immense triumph and crushing vulnerability. You're a public figure in a new country, a representative of a foreign power, and you're entirely alone. You know that the honeymoon period is short, and soon you will be expected to produce an heir to secure the future of your husband's line. The pressure is immense, a heavy cloak you will wear for the rest of your life. The journey is over. The dust has settled on the grand procession, and you find yourself in your new home, a magnificent but foreign castle. Now, all eyes turn to the final act of this political play, the royal wedding. This is not a quaint family affair with a few friends and relatives. This is a massive public spectacle, a display of power, wealth, and legitimacy for the entire kingdom and beyond. It's a bit like a modern-day royal wedding, but without the live TV broadcast and with a lot more feasting and pageantry. The days leading up to the ceremony are a whirlwind of preparations. Your ladies-in-waiting, some from your old court, some from your new one, help you prepare. You are bathed in fragrant water, your hair is intricately braided, and your skin is powdered to a perfect porcelain white. Your wedding gown is not just a dress, it's a work of art, a masterpiece of silk, velvet, and gold embroidery. It is so heavy that you can barely walk, but it is meant to be impressive, not comfortable. Every detail, from the pearls in your hair to the intricate embroidery on your gloves, is a public statement of your new family's wealth and status. It's a very heavy and very uncomfortable version of a designer gown. The wedding ceremony itself is held in the grandest cathedral in the kingdom. The building is packed with nobles, foreign dignitaries, and powerful clerics. The air is thick with the scent of incense and the sound of chanting. As you walk down the aisle, you're not just a bride. You're a living symbol of a new alliance. Every eye is on you, and you must appear pious, demure, and completely in love with the stranger at the end of the aisle. The weight of this performance is almost unbearable. One of the key, mainstream historical facts about medieval royal weddings is that they were often performed by proxy. That is, a stand-in for the groom would be present, and the marriage would be sealed in his name. The real wedding would then happen when the two parties met. This highlights just how political these unions were. The wedding wasn't about the couple, it was about the families. Even at your own wedding, a part of it feels as though it isn't truly yours. The ceremony is conducted by a high-ranking cleric, perhaps a cardinal or an archbishop, to give it the highest possible stamp of legitimacy. The vows are formal and binding, a legal contract as much as a religious rite. When you say "I do," you're not just promising to love, honour and obey. You're promising to produce heirs, to manage a court, and to be a symbol of stability for your new kingdom. There is no mention of love, only of duty. It's a brutally honest contract with God and with your new family. A quirky tidbit about royal weddings from this era. It was common for the couple to share a cup of wine or ale after the ceremony, to symbolise the joining of their lives. But in some cases the cup was first tasted by a food taster, just in case there was poison. It's a dark little detail that reminds you that even on the happiest day of your life you're surrounded by enemies. Historians still argue whether this was a common practice or a sensationalised detail from later accounts. But it reflects the constant state of paranoia in a royal court. You might be getting married, but you're still a walking target. After the ceremony, the wedding party moves to the Great Hall of the castle for a feast of epic proportions. The tables are groaning under the weight of roasted meats, game pies, and all manner of sweets. The entertainment includes jesters, musicians, and even acrobats. You're seated at a high table with your new husband, his family, and the most important dignitaries. You're expected to eat, drink, and be merry, but you're also constantly on display. Every bite you take, every sip of wine is being watched. You must show that you're not only a proper princess, but a suitable companion for the new king or prince. The celebrations can go on for days. The entire kingdom is celebrating the new union, and the feasting and revelry continue in the streets outside the castle walls. For a few days at least, the people have a reason to cheer, but you know that this is just a momentary distraction. The real work is about to begin. The feast, the music, the dancing, it's all a preamble to the main event, the part of the wedding that is the most intimate and the most public, the consummation. The day ends not with a romantic farewell, but with a grand procession to the marital bedchambers. It's a bizarre, almost comical ritual. Your new husband's groomsmen and your ladies-in-waiting accompany you to the bedroom. There is singing, jesting, and a general air of forced merriment. The bed is blessed by a priest. The room is filled with witnesses, all there to ensure that the marriage is not only legal but complete. Your most private moment is about to become a very public, very political event. It's the most awkward moment of your life by a long shot. The door to the bedchamber closes, but not before a crowd of witnesses piles in. This isn't a private romantic moment. It is a public political act. The air is thick with anticipation and a bizarre mixture of boisterous merriment and solemn formality. The room is filled with your new husband's groomsmen and your ladies-in-waiting, along with a few high-ranking officials and perhaps a bishop. You're all there to ensure one thing, that the marriage is not just a ceremony, but a physical reality. This is a very real and very awkward version of a contract signing. You're both stripped of your heavy ceremonial clothes. This is done in front of the witnesses, a part of the ritual designed to prove that neither of you has anything to hide. Your ladies-in-waiting help you out of your elaborate gown and into a simple linen nightgown. There is no sense of intimacy or romance, only of duty. The bed is waiting, a massive canopied structure, a symbol of your new status and the purpose you're meant to fulfill. A priest blesses the bed and offers a prayer for your fertility. It's all very official, very public, and 100% devoid of any sense of personal joy. You and your husband are then placed in the bed. This is not a moment for shy smiles or whispered conversations. The mood is one of expectation. The witnesses remain in the room, watching, waiting for the consummation to take place. The act itself is a political necessity, not a personal one. The future of the kingdom rests on your ability to produce an heir, and the consummation of your marriage is the first crucial step. This is one of the more jarring and mainstream historical facts of medieval royal life. The most private moment of your life is a public performance, a legal and political obligation. This is where things get a bit uncomfortable, even by historical standards. In many cases, the consummation was a brief, public affair. The witnesses would then leave, but not before checking the sheets for proof of your virginity and the successful consummation of the marriage. A smear of blood on the linen was a public declaration of your purity and the completion of the union. The stained sheet would then be displayed to the court as proof, a bit like showing off a trophy. It's a strange, almost barbaric practice to us now, but in the medieval world it was the ultimate proof of a valid marriage. A marriage that was not consummated could be annulled, and a marriage that was not officially witnessed was suspect. A quirky tidbit. In some instances, when a royal couple was having trouble conceiving, their subjects might perform a ritual called a mock consummation. This involved a man and a woman from the village performing a symbolic act in a field or a barn to encourage fertility. This was done without the royal couple's knowledge, of course, but it highlights the immense pressure and public scrutiny that surrounded your ability to produce an heir. Historians still argue whether these rituals were common or just folklore, but it's a fascinating glimpse into the mindset of the time, where even your fertility was a matter of public concern. The morning after, you are expected to rise and present yourself to the court, looking refreshed and happy. The ordeal is over, at least for the moment. Your wedding is now complete, and your new life has officially begun. But the pressure is not off. The expectation to produce an heir is now immediate and relentless. You're not just a wife, you're a mother-in-waiting, and every month that passes without a pregnancy will be a matter of public gossip and private anxiety. You are now a part of this new court. You have a new name, a new title, and a new set of responsibilities. You are no longer your father's daughter, but your husband's wife. Your loyalty is now to him, to his family, and to his kingdom. Your old life is a memory, and your new life is a cold, hard reality. You're expected to be a gracious hostess, a pious Christian, and a fertile wife. You're a public figure, a living symbol of an alliance, and every move you make will be scrutinized. The consummation, that awkward and public moment, is a microcosm of your entire life. Your body, your sexuality, your relationships, none of it is truly your own. It is all a matter of state. You're a tool, a means to an end. You're a living, breathing contract, and you have just fulfilled the most important clause. The wedding is over, the feast is done, and the real work has begun. Your life is no longer a story, it is a duty, and you have just sworn to fulfill it. Your new life begins, and it is a jarring change from the one you've known. The grand halls and familiar faces of your childhood castle are a distant memory. You are now in a new court, and this is not a place of comfort and familial love. It is a viper's nest, a treacherous maze of hidden alliances, secret feuds, and constant scrutiny. You are an outsider, a foreign princess in a land that has just acquired you, and everyone, from the lowliest servant to the highest noble, is watching to see how you will navigate it. Your first days are a blur of formal introductions. You're presented to the major nobles, the bishops, and the powerful merchants. You must memorize their names, their ranks, and their relationships to one another. A wrong turn in conversation, a careless word, or a perceived snub could create an enemy for life. Your every smile is a calculated risk. Your every polite question a diplomatic inquiry. This is not a social gathering. It's a high-stakes game of political chess, and you are playing for your life. It's like being the new kid at school, but with the added pressure of knowing that if you mess up you could start a civil war. The old queen, your mother-in-law, is the most formidable person you will meet. She's a woman of immense power and influence, and she sees you as a potential rival. She has a network of spies and informants, and she will be watching your every move. She will test your piety, your intelligence, and your loyalty. You must be respectful, but not subservient. You must show that you are competent and capable, but not so much that you overshadow her. This is a delicate and dangerous dance, a constant negotiation for power and influence. Historians still argue whether the rivalry between a queen and a queen consort was a natural dynamic, or a trope exaggerated in historical accounts, but you can feel it in the air, a tension so thick you could cut it with a knife. Your ladies-in-waiting, the ones who came with you from your old court, are your only true allies. They are your eyes and ears, your confidants, and your protectors. But even they must be careful. They are foreigners in this court, and they are just as vulnerable as you are. They can be spied on, bribed, or even removed if they prove to be too loyal to you. It's a bit like having your own personal spy network, but with the added risk that your spies could turn on you at any moment. One of the most important, mainstream historical facts about a princess's role in her new court is that she was expected to bring a sense of stability and order. Your presence is meant to signal a new era of peace and cooperation. You must be seen as a unifier, a bridge between two kingdoms. You are expected to hold court, to mediate disputes between nobles, and to be a patron of the arts and sciences. Your salon is not just a place for idle gossip. It is a centre of power, a place where information is exchanged and where alliances are quietly forged. A quirky fringe tidbit. In some medieval courts, a new queen would have to publicly prove her knowledge of a particular craft, like embroidery or weaving, to show that she was not just a useless royal ornament. This was a way of demonstrating her practicality and her connection to the more common aspects of life, a strange and almost comical tradition that highlights the immense pressure on a princess to be perfect in every way. It's like having to prove you can do your own laundry before you're allowed to run a country. You're expected to manage a massive household, a complex system of servants, cooks, guards, and scribes. This is a far cry from the sheltered life you led as a child. You must be a skilled administrator, a firm but fair manager, and a good accountant. You must know who to trust and who to watch. Your household is your power base, and if it is not well managed, it could be a source of constant friction and potential betrayal. You have to learn how to fire people, manage a budget, and deal with office politics, all while wearing £100 of silk and jewels. The most challenging part of this new life is the constant nagging paranoia. You are never truly alone. Your chambers are never truly private. A servant might be a spy, a friendly conversation might be a trap, and a gift from a noble might be poisoned. You learn to read faces, to listen to what is not being said, and to trust your gut instincts. Your life is a delicate balancing act between trust and suspicion, and you can never let your guard down. You are a captive in a gilded cage, and the only way to survive is to become a master of the game. The initial shock of your new life gives way to a predictable, relentless routine. Your days are not your own. They are a meticulously choreographed dance of duty, piety, and politics. From the moment you wake until the moment you fall asleep, you are a living instrument of the state, a symbol of royal power in motion. There is no time for idleness, no room for spontaneity, and very little space for personal joy. Your day begins before dawn. A lady-in-waiting wakes you, and you are dressed in a heavy gown of velvet or silk. Every layer of clothing, every stitch of embroidery is a statement of your status. The gown is a cage of fabric, a beautiful prison that restricts your movement but ensures you look the part of a princess. You are then escorted to Mass, a daily ritual that is as much about public appearance as it is about prayer. You kneel on cold stone, your head bowed, a picture of perfect piety. This isn't just for God. It's for the nobles who are watching you, judging your devotion, and using it as a barometer of your character. It's a bit like having to attend a mandatory morning meeting where you're constantly being evaluated on how well you look and act. After Mass, the work truly begins. You retire to your private chambers, but you're not alone. Your ladies-in-waiting are always present, and a constant stream of visitors and petitioners flows in and out. You must be prepared to handle a wide range of issues. A servant might have been accused of theft, and you must decide their fate. A noble woman might have a grievance against her neighbour, and you must mediate the dispute. A merchant might seek your patronage for a new trade venture, and you must decide if it is a wise investment. You are a judge, a diplomat, and a businesswoman all rolled into one. Your wit, your charm, and your sense of fairness are your only tools. One of the more surprising and mainstream historical facts about a princess's daily life is the sheer volume of correspondence she handled. You spend hours writing letters, not just to your family back home, but to other royal courts, to bishops, and to powerful nobles. These are not simple letters. They are diplomatic missives, filled with coded language and subtle messages. Your handwriting, remember, is a reflection of your education and your intelligence, and every word is weighed carefully. You are a living email chain, and the stakes are much, much higher. Your afternoons are often spent on more public duties. You might hold court in the Great Hall, listening to grievances from the common people. You sit on a high throne, a symbol of your husband's power, and you must listen with an air of compassion and wisdom. This is a crucial public relations exercise. You're meant to be seen as a kind and benevolent ruler, a source of hope for the common people. A good performance here can earn you the loyalty of your subjects, which is a powerful asset in a world of political intrigue. A quirky fringe tidbit about these daily audiences: some peasants would offer the princess a small handmade gift, like a carved wooden bird or a piece of embroidered cloth. These were not seen as insults. They were seen as tokens of respect and affection. The princess was expected to accept them graciously, a small gesture that showed her connection to her people. Historians still argue whether these gifts were genuinely from the heart, or if they were carefully orchestrated gestures by the local nobility to curry favour. It's a nice thought, though, that someone out there might have given you a tiny handcrafted hedgehog. The evenings are often filled with feasting and entertainment. These are not just social occasions, they are an extension of your daytime duties. You must navigate the complex social hierarchy, making sure to show favour to the right people and to avoid offending the wrong ones. You sit at the high table with your husband, and you are constantly aware of the eyes on you. The food is rich and plentiful, but you must be careful not to eat too much or to appear gluttonous. The conversation is a mix of gossip, political manoeuvring and intellectual debate, and you must be able to hold your own in all of it. After the feast, you might be treated to a musical performance, a play, or a display of jousting. This is the closest you get to a moment of leisure, but even here, you're on duty. Your reactions are noted, and your preferences are a matter of public record. A fondness for one type of music over another could be seen as a political statement. You're a patron of the arts, and your taste is a reflection of your court's values. Finally, you retire to your chambers, but the day is not over. You might spend a few quiet moments with your husband, but even these are often filled with discussions of the day's events, political strategy, and the ongoing pressure to produce an heir. You are a partner in a political enterprise, not a wife in a traditional sense. By the time you finally get to bed, your body's exhausted and your mind is buzzing with the events of the day. Your life is a long, arduous march toward a goal you did not choose, and the only way to survive is to never ever stop marching. The wedding feast is a distant memory, and the daily grind of court life has settled into a numbing rhythm. But there is one unspoken constant pressure that hangs over you like a thundercloud: the expectation to produce an heir. Your primary purpose as a princess and future queen is not to govern, to lead, or to inspire. It is to be fertile. Your body is now a political instrument, and its most important function is to secure the continuation of your husband's line. The pressure is immediate, relentless, and a source of profound anxiety. Every time you're seen in public, every conversation you have, every meal you eat, it's all coloured by this one singular expectation. Courtiers whisper behind their hands, and you can almost hear their thoughts. Is she pregnant yet? Is there a sign? Your husband's family watches you with an intensity that feels both hopeful and terrifying. They are not just waiting for a child, they are waiting for a symbol of their continued power, a guarantee of their dynasty's future. It's a bit like being a professional athlete who's expected to win the championship in their first season, but if you fail, the consequences are a lot more serious than just losing a trophy. This pressure isn't just external, it's internal. You have been raised to believe that your worth is tied to your ability to fulfill this duty. You are told that a queen without an heir is a failure, a barren vessel that has failed her family and her kingdom. Every month that passes without a pregnancy is a source of profound disappointment and shame. You might try to hide your anxiety, to put on a brave face, but you know that everyone is watching, and everyone is counting. One of the more grim, mainstream historical facts of this era is the sheer volume of fertility remedies and rituals that a royal woman was subjected to. The court physicians and apothecaries would concoct strange and often dangerous potions, made from everything from ground-up pearls to crocodile dung. You might be told to wear a charm or to bathe in special herbs. Some of these remedies were so bizarre they sound like something from a fantasy novel, but they were a very real part of your life. It's a desperate attempt to control something that is fundamentally uncontrollable. Historians still argue whether these remedies were genuinely believed to be effective, or if they were more of a psychological comfort, a way for the court to feel like they were doing something to solve the problem. The lack of a male heir is a particularly serious problem. While a daughter is a welcome addition, and another potential bargaining chip on the marriage market, A son is a necessity. A male heir ensures a smooth transition of power and prevents a succession crisis. A queen who only produces daughters is often seen as a failure, and her position becomes increasingly precarious. She might be sidelined, her influence diminished, or, in the most extreme cases, her marriage might be annulled, and she might be sent away in disgrace. A quirky fringe tidbit about this pressure. In some cases, if a queen was not conceiving, her husband, the king, might be advised by his physicians and advisors to abstain from certain foods or activities, as it was believed that his humours were imbalanced. The responsibility to produce an heir was placed not just on you, but on both of you, in a sort of shared, misguided attempt to control the biological process. It's a nice thought that the burden wasn't entirely on your shoulders, but it still highlights the immense anxiety that surrounded the issue. When you finally become pregnant, the relief is immense, but it is quickly replaced by a new set of fears. Childbirth in the medieval era was a dangerous and often fatal process. There were no modern doctors, no sterile environments, and little understanding of basic hygiene. Your birthing chamber would be filled with midwives and ladies-in-waiting, but their knowledge was based on superstition and tradition, not science. You're just as likely to die in childbirth as a peasant woman, if not more so given the bizarre medical practices. A priest would be on hand to offer prayers and last rites just in case, and if you do survive, the pressure immediately returns. Is it a boy? The entire court is holding its breath. The moment the child is born, the doctors, the midwives, and your husband will all be there to verify its sex. If it is a boy, the relief is palpable, and the celebration is immediate. The news is announced with the peal of trumpets and the ringing of bells. If it is a girl, the reaction is more subdued. She is still a princess, but she is not the heir, and the pressure on you to try again will be immense. The weight of your dynasty rests on a tiny screaming newborn, and you are the one who bore it. The cries of a newborn echo through the castle, and the relief is palpable. You have done your duty. The heir has been born. But your journey as a mother is not what you might expect. This is not a moment for quiet bonding and personal reflection. It is, like everything else in your life, a public political event. You are a biological instrument, and now that your function has been fulfilled, the baby is taken from you almost immediately. The royal nursery is not a cosy private space. It is a full-fledged institution, a small court in its own right, staffed with wet nurses, nannies, and a host of other servants, all overseen by a trusted matron. Your child is not yours to raise. It is a symbol of the dynasty, a future ruler, and its upbringing is a matter of state. You might be allowed to visit, to see your child from a distance, but the day-to-day care and nurturing are left to others. This is one of the more heartbreaking and alienating mainstream historical facts of royal life. The bond that we associate with motherhood is a luxury you cannot afford. Your wet nurse is the most important person in your child's life for the first few years. She is a carefully selected woman from a peasant family, chosen for her robust health, her gentle nature, and most importantly, her ability to produce an abundance of milk. She's not just a servant, she's a vital part of the royal household, and her health is as important as your own. You may have a moment of genuine connection with her, but she's still a subordinate, a tool to be used for your child's benefit. As your child grows, they are raised not in your chambers, but in the royal nursery, a world of its own. They are taught to be a prince or a princess from a very young age. They learn Latin, history, and the intricacies of court etiquette. Their play is a form of education, their toys carefully chosen to teach them about their future duties. You might be allowed to visit during these lessons to watch them from a distance, but you are not their primary educator. That role is reserved for a team of tutors, carefully selected by your husband and his family. The quirky little tidbit here: in some medieval courts, it was common for the queen and her ladies to bring the young prince or princess to their chambers and act out scenes from history, using small carved dolls to represent famous kings and queens. This was a form of political theatre, a way of teaching the child their family history and their future role. It's a very weird, very formal version of a playdate, isn't it? Historians still argue whether this was a genuine act of maternal affection or just another layer of political education. Your primary role as a mother is not to nurture, but to provide a legacy. You're expected to produce more children, a spare heir or two, and a princess to be married off in a future political alliance. The pressure to get pregnant again is immense, and your body is once again a subject of constant scrutiny. There is no such thing as a break from duty, even after childbirth. You are a vessel for the continuation of the family line, and as long as you are fertile, you are expected to perform your duty. Your relationship with your child is a complex one. You are their mother, but you are also their queen. They will be taught to be respectful, but not overly familiar. They will be taught to see you as a source of authority, not just a source of love. This can lead to a sense of emotional distance, a feeling that you are a stranger to your own children. You're a figurehead, a symbol of motherhood, but you're not the one who is there to comfort them when they fall, to read them a story before bed, or to teach them how to play. When your children are old enough, they are sent away to be educated in their own courts. Your sons are sent to live with a prominent nobleman to be trained in the arts of war and governance. Your daughters are sent to a convent or a foreign court to learn the skills they will need to be a successful royal wife. You might not see them again for years, and your relationship with them will be a formal one, conducted through letters and occasional stilted visits. You are a mother, but you are a mother in the most political sense of the word. You have given birth, you have provided the heir, and you have secured the future of the dynasty. But the personal joys of motherhood, the small, quiet moments of connection and love, are a luxury you can never truly have. You are a queen, a princess, a diplomat, and a political pawn. But you are not just a mother, and that is a price you pay for the crown. Your clothing is not just fabric and thread. It is a complex language of power, status, and political allegiance. Every gown you wear, every piece of jewellery is a statement, a public declaration of your family's wealth and your own position. You're a living billboard for the kingdom, and your wardrobe is a matter of state, not personal preference. It's like being a walking, breathing fashion show, but one where the clothes are so heavy and restrictive that you can barely breathe. Your day begins with a dressing ritual that takes hours. Your ladies-in-waiting, skilled and patient, help you into layer after layer of clothing. First, a simple linen shift, the most comfortable garment you own. Then, a series of corsets and underpinnings designed to create the desired silhouette. A long, slender torso and a wide, bell-shaped skirt. The corsets are so tight they can make it difficult to breathe. A small price to pay for the perfect regal posture. The weight of the clothing is immense, a constant physical burden that you carry throughout the day. It's a very literal version of the phrase, wearing the weight of the world on your shoulders. Your gowns are made from the finest materials the kingdom can afford. Italian silks, French velvets, and English wools, all embroidered with threads of gold and silver. The colours are rich and vibrant, deep blues, royal purples, and rich crimsons, colours that are reserved for the highest echelons of society. These fabrics and dyes are not just beautiful, they're incredibly expensive, a visible sign of your family's wealth and your own status. A single gown can cost more than a peasant will earn in their entire lifetime. The jewels you wear are not just for decoration. The necklaces, rings and brooches are often gifts from foreign dignitaries, a way of cementing alliances and a display of your husband's power. The pearls might be from a trade agreement with a distant land, the rubies from a newly conquered territory, and the diamonds from a powerful noble family. You are a walking map of your kingdom's political landscape, and every gem tells a story of trade, conquest, and power. This is a quintessential mainstream historical fact of royal life. Jewellery was a form of political currency, a quirky fringe tidbit about royal fashion. In some courts, a princess would have her gowns adorned with symbols and images that represented her family's coat of arms, or a particular political alliance. For example, a princess from a kingdom with a lion as its symbol might have her gown embroidered with dozens of tiny golden lions. It's a bit like a sports team wearing their logo on their jersey, but with a lot more silk and a lot more gold. Historians still argue whether this was a common practice or a more localized one, but it highlights the use of clothing as a form of visual communication in a time when literacy was rare. Your headdresses are a work of art in themselves, a wimple, a veil, or a coronet of gold and jewels. They are not just for beauty, they are a sign of your marital status and a symbol of your piety. A married woman's hair was almost never seen in public. It was a sign of modesty and a way of showing that her sexuality was reserved for her husband alone. You're literally wrapped up in a package of tradition and expectation, and your beauty is hidden away from the world. The burden of this splendour is not just physical, it is also psychological. You're constantly aware that you are a public figure, and your appearance is a matter of public record. You must never have a hair out of place, a stain on your gown, or a wrinkle in your veil. Your appearance is a reflection of your court's values, and any flaw is a sign of weakness. You're a masterpiece of self-control, a work of art that is never allowed to be truly you. Even your simple day clothes are a testament to your wealth. A simple wool gown is still made from the finest wool and lined with fur. There is no such thing as casual attire for a princess. Every single moment of your life, from the grand feast to a quiet moment in your chambers, is a performance, and your clothes are your costume. The weight of the fabric, the jewels and the expectations is a constant reminder that you are a prisoner in a gilded cage. You may be a princess, but you are not free. Life in a medieval castle, for all its splendour, is a constant battle against an unseen enemy: disease. Despite your royal status and the immense wealth surrounding you, you are no more immune to sickness than the lowliest peasant. In many ways, you are even more vulnerable, living in a closed, often unhygienic environment where disease could spread like wildfire among the crowded court. The castle, a symbol of power and permanence, is also a breeding ground for germs, and your health, like everything else in your life, is a matter of state. Sanitation is a foreign concept. Waste is often thrown out of windows into a moat, and fresh water is a rarity. The air in the castle is thick with the scent of wood smoke, unwashed bodies, and the faint, sweet smell of decay. Your fine clothes are rarely washed, as the process is difficult and time-consuming. You're constantly surrounded by people, your ladies-in-waiting, servants and courtiers, and any one of them could be carrying a deadly disease. It's a bit like living in a luxury hotel with no running water and 100 people crammed into the lobby. The risk is immense and you are constantly on high alert. When you fall ill, the fear is palpable. A simple cold can quickly turn into a fatal fever, and a scraped knee can lead to a deadly infection. There are no modern doctors, no hospitals, and no understanding of germ theory. The people who attend to you are not scientists. They are barber surgeons and apothecaries who believe that disease is caused by an imbalance of the four humours: blood, phlegm, yellow bile, and black bile. Their remedies are a grim mixture of superstition and tradition. One of the most common and most dangerous treatments is bloodletting. You would be bled with leeches or by a surgeon using a sharp tool. The belief was that by removing the bad blood you could restore the balance of the humours and cure the illness. The procedure is painful and often makes you sicker, but you're expected to endure it without complaint. It's a stark reminder that your body is not your own, and that even in sickness, you are a public figure, a vessel for the health of the kingdom. This is a very real, mainstream historical fact that highlights the brutal reality of medieval medicine. A quirky and somewhat disgusting tidbit about medieval medicine. Your apothecary might prescribe a concoction made from ground-up insects or other animal parts. These medicines were often a mix of herbal remedies and bizarre, unproven ingredients, all meant to restore balance to your body. For example, a mixture of powdered crocodile dung and vinegar might be prescribed for a stomach ailment. The fact that these treatments were common, and were even used on royalty, highlights the profound lack of scientific knowledge at the time. Historians still argue whether these remedies had any genuine, albeit unproven, medicinal value, or if they were just a form of ritualistic placebo. You're also at risk from the great plagues that periodically sweep across Europe. The Black Death, a pandemic that killed millions, is a terrifying reality. When the plague comes to your kingdom, your family will likely flee to a rural castle, a safe distance from the crowded cities. But you are not truly safe. The plague can be carried by anyone, and the fear of it is a constant lurking presence. You are a princess, but you are not immune to the Grim Reaper. The death of a royal family member from disease is a serious political event. It can destabilize the kingdom, create a succession crisis, and weaken the family's power. Your health is a matter of public concern, and every cough, every sneeze is noted by the court. You're constantly watched, and the pressure to remain healthy is immense. Your body is a fragile container, and its well-being is a matter of life and death for the entire kingdom. And when you recover, the relief is short-lived. The next sickness is always around the corner, and the cycle of fear, treatment, and recovery begins anew. Your life is a constant series of small battles against an unseen enemy. You may be a princess, but you're also a prisoner of your time, a captive in a world where a simple infection can be as deadly as a knight's sword. Despite the fact that your life is a gilded cage, you're not entirely powerless. Your influence, though subtle and often indirect, is a key component of your role as a princess. You're not a warrior or a politician in the traditional sense, but you wield power through patronage, diplomacy, and the quiet, behind-the-scenes machinations of the court. You're a shadow ruler, a force that works in the background to shape the future of the kingdom. Your most powerful tool is patronage. You have a massive household, and you can grant favours, titles, and land to the nobles and common people who serve you. You can become a patron of the arts, commissioning great works of music, literature, and art. These commissions are not just a display of your wealth, they're a form of political propaganda. A tapestry depicting your family's history, a poem celebrating your husband's military victories, or a grand cathedral dedicated to a saint. All of these are a way of legitimizing your rule and solidifying your family's place in history. This is a well-documented mainstream historical fact. Royal women were often the most powerful patrons of the arts and sciences. You can also use your influence to help the less fortunate. You can become a benefactor for a monastery or a hospital, a source of charity for the poor, or a protector of widows and orphans. This is not just a matter of piety. It is a way of earning the love and loyalty of the common people. A princess who is seen as kind and charitable is a powerful asset to her husband's rule. You are a PR machine, and your good deeds are a form of political currency. A quirky tidbit about your influence. In some cases, a princess would act as a diplomatic go-between for two feuding nobles. She would invite them to her private chambers for a meal, and over a glass of wine she would mediate their dispute. This was a form of soft power, a way of using her unique position as a neutral party to solve problems that her husband's men could not. Historians still argue whether these mediations were always successful, but it shows a different and more subtle way that a princess could exert her influence. Your ladies-in-waiting, remember them? They are your eyes and ears, and they are also your instruments of power. They are your spies, your messengers, and your confidants. You can use them to gather information, to spread rumours, and to subtly influence the course of events. You are the spider at the centre of a vast web of intrigue, and your ladies-in-waiting are the threads that connect you to the rest of the court. Your influence extends to your husband as well. You are his most trusted advisor, his confidant, and his partner in power. While you may not be a politician in the public eye, you are a crucial part of his inner circle. You can advise him on matters of state, influence his decisions, and help him navigate the complex web of court politics. Your power is not in the sword or in the public forum. It is in the quiet whisper, the well-timed piece of advice, and the subtle manipulation of events. The most challenging part of this quiet power is that it is often invisible. Your triumphs are not celebrated in the great hall. They are felt in the smooth flow of court life, in the alliances that are forged, and in the peace that is secured. You are a force that works in the shadows, a quiet power that is just as important and often more effective than the public declarations of a king. You are a princess, and you have learned to be a master of the quiet game. Beneath the veneer of courtly splendour lies a dark and dangerous world of political intrigue, betrayal, and violence. Your life, for all its privilege, is a constant tightrope walk over an abyss of danger. The same people who bow to you in the great hall might be plotting your downfall, and a friendly smile can hide a dagger. You are never truly safe, and the threat of treason, assassination, and rebellion is a constant lurking presence. It's a bit like living in a castle with a giant invisible "kick me" sign on your back. The first lesson you learn is that no one can be truly trusted. Your ladies-in-waiting, your servants, even your husband's closest advisors, any one of them could be a spy for a rival faction. They could be feeding information to a noble who wants to usurp your husband's power, or they could be planning to poison you to make way for a different alliance. You learn to listen to what is not said, to read the subtle body language, and to trust your gut instincts. Your life depends on it. Assassination plots are not a thing of fiction. They are a grim reality. You are a valuable target, and if your enemies can't defeat your husband on the battlefield, they might try to eliminate you. The food taster who stands by your table at every meal is not a quaint tradition. He is a crucial shield against poison. You learn to watch him carefully, to see his reaction before you take a bite. Your food is prepared in a locked kitchen, and the wine is sealed in a cask. Every meal is a moment of potential peril, a small victory over a lurking enemy. This is a crucial, mainstream historical fact of royal life. The fear of poison was very real, and the precautions were elaborate and constant. A quirky, fringe tidbit about these plots. In some cases, the assassin was not a knight with a sword, but a skilled herbalist who could concoct a slow-acting poison that mimicked a natural illness. This made it impossible to trace and gave the assassin a chance to escape. Historians still argue whether these poisons were as effective as the legends suggest, but the fear of them was enough to make you constantly paranoid. It's the medieval version of a slow-acting virus, a silent and terrifying threat that could strike at any time. Your husband's family, the very people who should be your protectors, can also be a source of danger. If you fail to produce an heir, or if your husband decides to cast you aside for a more advantageous alliance, they might be complicit in a plot to get rid of you. This could be a slow process, a gradual erosion of your power and influence, or it could be a swift and brutal act of violence. You are a living contract, and if you are no longer useful, you can be annulled in the most literal sense of the word. Rebellion is another constant threat. If your husband's rule is unpopular, the common people might rise up against him. In these cases, you're an easy target, a symbol of the crown's power, and a way for the rebels to strike at your husband. You might be taken hostage, or you might be killed in a bloody coup. The castle walls that are meant to protect you can also become a cage, a place where you're trapped with a mob of angry peasants at the gate. Your best defence against this dark world is your own intelligence and your network of allies. You must use your quiet influence to build a base of support among the nobles, to earn the loyalty of the common people, and to outsmart your enemies. You must be a master of the game, a quiet player who knows when to speak, when to be silent, and when to strike. Your life depends on it. You're a princess, but you're also a survivor, and the most important lesson you learn is to never, ever let your guard down. The shadow of failure hangs over you, a constant threat to your position and your very life. While you are a princess, a living symbol of a royal alliance, you're also a woman in a patriarchal society, and your worth is tied to your ability to fulfill your role. If you fail to produce an heir, if your husband falls out of favour, or if a more advantageous political alliance presents itself, your position can become incredibly precarious. Your fate is a cautionary tale, a stark reminder that even a crown cannot protect you from the brutal realities of power. The most common reason for a royal wife to be cast aside is her inability to produce a male heir. Your primary duty is to ensure the continuation of the family line, and if you fail, you are seen as a barren vessel, a failure of nature and of God. A king might seek an annulment, claiming that the marriage was never valid in the eyes of the church. This is a very real, mainstream historical fact, and it was a common way for a king to get rid of a wife he no longer wanted. You could be sent away to a monastery or a convent, stripped of your titles, and forced to live a life of poverty and piety. It is a slow, quiet death, a banishment from the world you were born into. If your husband's power wanes, or if he is overthrown by a rival, you are an easy target for his enemies. You might be imprisoned in a remote castle, a political hostage to be used against your husband. Or you might be executed, a public and brutal statement that the old regime is dead. Your fate is tied to your husband's, and if he falls, you fall with him. The queens of medieval Europe are full of stories of women who went from a throne to a dungeon, from a life of luxury to a life of misery. A quirky, fringe tidbit. In some instances, a deposed queen would be sent away to a rival's court, where she would be forced to live as a servant, a constant reminder of her husband's failure. This was a form of psychological torture, a way of humiliating both her and her husband. Historians still argue whether this was a common practice or just a particularly brutal one, but it shows the lengths that people would go to in order to gain power. It's the ultimate reality TV show, a public shaming that is meant to last a lifetime. And then there's the possibility of being beheaded. This is a rare and extreme punishment, but it is not unheard of. A king might accuse you of adultery, treason or witchcraft, charges that are often fabricated in order to get rid of you. The trial is a sham, a public spectacle designed to show that your punishment is just and that your husband is a benevolent ruler. You are led to the execution block and your life is ended with a single swing of a sword. This is the most brutal and final way for a queen to be deposed, and it is a stark reminder that your life is not your own. The fear of these fates is a constant nagging presence. You're surrounded by luxury and power, but you're also surrounded by danger. Your life is a precious commodity, but it is a commodity that can be taken away at any moment. You're a princess, but you're also a prisoner, and your freedom is an illusion. You're a living testament to the fact that in the medieval world, a crown is not a guarantee of a happily ever after. The years have passed, and the weight of them is etched onto your face and in the deep lines around your eyes. The vibrant young girl who began this journey is a distant memory, replaced by a woman of immense power and wisdom, a matriarch who has survived a world that was designed to break her. You're now an old queen, a figure of respect and in some cases fear. Your children are grown, and they are now the players in the great game you once played. You have a legacy, and it is built on a lifetime of sacrifice. You're no longer a public spectacle in the same way. The constant performance of your youth has given way to a quieter, more subtle form of power. You are the fount of wisdom, the keeper of secrets, and the final arbiter of disputes. People come to you for advice, not just on matters of state, but on matters of the heart. You have seen it all, the betrayals, the triumphs, the loves and the losses, and you are a living repository of history. Your body is tired. The years of wearing heavy gowns, of enduring primitive medical treatments, and of bearing children have taken their toll. You might be racked with arthritis, your hands gnarled and your back permanently bent, but your mind is as sharp as ever. You still receive visitors, still read diplomatic missives, and still write letters to your children in far-flung courts. Your power is no longer physical, it is intellectual and political. You are the puppet master, and the strings are long and far-reaching. One of the most important mainstream historical facts about an aging queen is that she often became a de facto ruler, especially if her husband, the king, was old or infirm. Your husband might be a symbol of power, but you are the one who is running the day-to-day affairs of the kingdom. You hold court, you make decisions, and you ensure that the line of succession is secure. You're a ruler in all but name, and your word is law. It's a kind of final, bitter triumph, a reward for a lifetime of sacrifice. A quirky fringe tidbit about old queens. Some of them became incredibly superstitious, relying on astrologers, soothsayers, and alchemists to guide their decisions. After a lifetime of living in a world of uncertainty and danger, they would look for answers in the stars and in the mystical arts. This was a way of trying to control a future that was for so long out of their hands. Historians still argue whether this was a sign of intellectual decline or just a desperate attempt to find a sense of certainty in a chaotic world. You have a special relationship with your grandchildren. You're not a stranger to them, but you're also not their primary caregiver. You can afford to be a bit more relaxed, a bit more loving than you were with your own children. You can tell them stories of your youth, of the grand procession and the feasts, but you leave out the parts about the poison, the betrayals, and the fear. You want to give them the fairy tale you never had. You want them to believe that being a princess is a magical thing, not a brutal job. As your time draws to a close, you reflect on your life. You did not choose this path. It was chosen for you from the moment you were born. You were a pawn, a tool, and a commodity. But you survived. You not only survived, but you thrived. You outlived your enemies, you secured a dynasty, and you left an indelible mark on history. You are more than a name in a book. You are a force of nature, a woman who bent a patriarchal world to her will. You have spent your entire life in a gilded cage, and yet you have found a way to be free. Your freedom is not in leaving, but in surviving. Your power is not in the sword, but in your mind. You are a queen, a mother, and a survivor. You are the culmination of a long, arduous journey, and your legacy is a testament to the fact that even in the darkest of times, power can be found in the quietest of places. You are an old woman, and your body is finally giving out. The world is beginning to fade, the sounds are muffled, and the faces are blurred. You are at peace. The weight of the crown, the jewels, and the expectations is finally gone. You have fulfilled your duty, and you have won the game. The final image fades. The fire crackles. The air grows still. You're no longer a princess, no longer a queen, just a woman, alone with her memories. And now, as the last embers of our story fade, so too does the world we've built together tonight. The castle walls, the rustle of silk, the taste of wine, they all dissolve back into the silence. You can let go of the weight of the crown now. The journey is over. The pages are closed. Sleep now. Let the whispers of history fade into a gentle lullaby. The past is a quiet place. It's safe. There's nothing to fear here, just stillness and the promise of rest.